For years, two murders in California sat in silence. No witnesses, no arrests, no answers. The victims were young women. The crime scenes were different. The years were apart. And yet, decades later, investigators would discover that the same man was responsible. His name was Joseph Stephen Holt. This is the story of how he killed, how he escaped justice for decades, and how modern forensic science finally exposed him. In the late 1970s, California was a very different place. Police relied on fingerprints, blood type testing, eyewitness statements, and intuition. DNA profiling did not exist. If a killer left no clear trail, the case often died with the evidence. It was during this time that two women were murdered years apart in crimes that would later be connected to a single man hiding in plain sight. In 1977, a young woman was found murdered under circumstances that shocked local investigators. She was intelligent, independent, trying to build her future. Her body showed signs of sexual assault and extreme violence. The crime scene told investigators one thing very clearly. This was not an accident. This was not spontaneous. The killer had taken control. Despite an extensive investigation, police hit a wall. No suspects out. No usable forensic evidence existed at the time. The case slowly went cold. What investigators didn't know was that the man responsible did not stop. He learned from his crime. He learned how to avoid detection. Joseph Stephen Holt was not a drifter. He was not living on the margins of society. He blended in, and 2 years later, he would strike again. In 1979, another young woman was murdered. Different location, different circumstances, but the violence was familiar. Again, sexual assault. Again, deliberate control. Again, a crime scene that suggested planning rather than rage. Investigators suspected a serial offender, but they lacked the tools to prove it. The second case also went cold. 2 victims, 2 unsolved murders, 1 unknown killer. At the time of the murders, Joseph Stephen Holt appeared ordinary. He held jobs. He interacted with others normally. Nothing about him screamed killer. But beneath the surface, Holt harbored deep sexual aggression, control fantasies, and a capacity for extreme violence. He targeted women he believed he could overpower, not out of anger, but out of entitlement. Joseph Stephen Holt did not kill out of panic. He killed for control. Investigators later concluded that Holt's motive centered on sexual dominance, psychological control, the thrill of getting away with it. These were predatory crimes, not emotional ones. He selected victims deliberately. He attacked methodically, and he left behind just enough confusion to escape detection in a pre-DNA era. In the 1970s, police could not extract DNA profiles. Evidence that today would instantly identify a suspect was useless then. Holt left biological evidence at both crime scenes, but science had not yet caught up. The cases stalled. Witness memories faded. Detectives retired. The victims' families waited. For over 40 years, the murders remained unsolved. Joseph Stephen Holt lived his life. No charges, no suspicion, no accountability. This is how many killers survive, not because they are smarter, but because time protects them, until it doesn't. By the 2010s, cold case units began reopening files from the 1970s. Advances in DNA technology changed everything. Biological evidence, once considered useless, could now identify killers with near certainty. Both 1977 and 1979 evidence samples were retested. What investigators found changed everything. The DNA profiles from both murders matched. 2 crimes, 2 victims, 1 perpetrator. For the first time, investigators knew they were dealing with a serial offender. Now, they just needed a name. Using genealogical DNA databases, investigators traced the genetic profile through family lines. The trail led to Joseph Stephen Holt. Once his name surfaced, everything aligned. Age at the time of murders, location history, opportunity, behavioral patterns. He had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Police obtained a direct DNA sample from Holt. The match was undeniable. His DNA matched the biological evidence from both murders. There was no reasonable doubt. After more than 40 years, the killer finally had a name. Joseph Stephen Holt was arrested quietly. No dramatic chase, no resistance, just a man confronted by science. For decades, he had lived freely. Now, Tom had caught him. During questioning, Holt offered no meaningful defense. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA does not forget. It does not misremember. It does not lie. Investigators knew they finally had the truth. The women Holt murdered could not testify, but their DNA did. After decades of silence, they finally told their story, not through words, but through science. Prosecutors laid out the timeline. 1977 murder, 1979 murder, DNA evidence, behavioral patterns. The case was built not on speculation, but on proof. Joseph Stephen Holt was held accountable for crimes he thought time had erased. For the families, justice came late, but it came. There was no celebration, only relief. This case is not just about one killer. It is about the power of forensic science, the patience of truth, the victims who wait decades to be heard. Cold cases are not forgotten cases. Joseph Stephen Holt lived freely for decades, not because he was innocent, but because technology had not caught him yet. Every solved cold case sends a message. Time is not protection. Silence is not safety. The most important names in this story are not the killers. They are the women he murdered. They mattered. They were loved. They deserved long lives. Justice does not bring them back, but it restores truth. For over 40 years, Joseph Stephen Holt believed he had gotten away with murder. He was wrong. Science waited. Evidence waited. Truth waited. And when the moment came, it spoke clearly. Because no matter how long it takes, the past always remembers.